Hey y'all, I am back and I actually have I have like doctor stories for you. Stay with me. I have been binge watching House, so these are like creepy doctor stories, like weird things that doctors have experienced with their patients. The title of the article says 16 weird and creepy stories from hospital workers that'll give you the heebie-jeebies. I read the first two and they're pretty crazy, so we're gonna see what happens. The first story says, this near-death experience. I'm an ER nurse. I had an old lady come in by ambulance near death. She was DNR, which means do not resuscitate. If you don't know that, I'm a doctor, if you also didn't know that, so it's do not resuscitate, I think. So we weren't going to do much for her. She didn't have any family that we could find. The hospital was full, so we had to keep her in the ER for the night. Again, she was near death. When you've seen enough people die, there's no mistaking it, and she was almost there. Barely responsive, pale, cool, breasts were really irregular, heart rate was up and down too. We just turned the lights down and kept an eye on her monitor, basically waiting for her to die. About an hour later, she's standing at the door of her room. She had gotten up and put on all of her clothes. We were like, what the fuck? One of the nurses went to check on her and she said she was hungry. Not knowing really what to make of things, we got her a chair, a bedside table, and went to the cafeteria to get her a tray of food. Lady sat there, ate all of her food, talked with the staff a little. After about an hour, she told her nurse that she was tired and wanted to lie back down. We helped her back into bed, and within 30 minutes, she was dead. Not exactly paranormal, but in 22 years in busy-ass inner-city ERs, it's the weirdest thing I've seen. Number 2 says, and this one. I don't know if this is like the same person and they're like, and this story as well, but the title of the story is, and this one. When I was a student, I got called in on a stroke patient. She had coded and they were doing CPR. They worked for 45 minutes, but she died. They cleaned her up and called on the family to say goodbye. By the time the family left, she had been both brain dead and without a pulse for more than 45 minutes. Blood had filled her brain and she was completely gray and started to smell. Suddenly, she sat up and called for her family. The nurses rushed to get monitors and equipment back on her, started working on her again, she stabilized, said goodbye to her family, and promptly died a second time. Like, what the fuck? Like, I read that and I was like, that's some house shit. That is some house shit. I love House. Number 3 says this man in black. Used to work in a skilled nursing facility. I was usually assigned to the Alzheimer's ward. One night, I'm in the linen room stocking my cart and I heard someone shuffle up behind me. Then I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned around and there was no one else in the room. The door was still shut too. Another lady started to complain that a man was coming into her room at night. Again, Alzheimer's, so I didn't think much of it. So to reassure her, I told her I would check on her throughout the night. She complained of this man every night for 2 more weeks. When I asked her to describe him to me, he's real handsome and wears a black suit. Oh, he's right behind you now, honey. That freaked me the fuck out. Of course, there was no one behind me. She died the next night in her sleep. These hallucinations. LPN here. I work in long-term care currently. Don't know what LPN means, don't ask. I knew DNR, I don't know what everything means. I'm not actually a doctor. I think I'm saying this, I don't know if I was gonna say I think I'm saying this correctly, but I have no idea if I am. A lot of palliative residents always claim to hallucinate either small dogs or children eating ice cream before they die. It's always family specific too. At one facility I work at, I had about 6 to 7 residents claim to see a little girl eating ice cream, then they die that night. I'm gonna find that little shit. She's causing me so much paperwork. Hello, Weems. Welcome to the video. Number 5 says, and these ones. I just think some of these don't really have good titles. About 2 years ago, we treated patients during a fungal meningitis outbreak. Our acute care floor has a census of 20. During this, at least 10 to 15 were meningitis patients, ages ranging from 20s to 90s. There are no shared rooms and all the patients were in isolation, no contact with one another. Many of them had the same hallucinations, children in the corners of their rooms and auditory hallucinations of religious music. I can't say that. I'm trying, my heart is here. I had bacterial meningitis, and then this is in quotes. I had bacterial meningitis and had similar hallucinations. Kids' voices talking to me, people walking around my room staring at me like I was naked in a train station. My dad later assured me he was the only one there. It continued randomly for a few weeks after I left the hospital. I put it down to all the drugs they were giving me, but it seriously fucked me up for a while. This creepy knocking. In the morgue at my hospital, I would always hear knocking coming from inside the freezer. It really creeped me out, especially when the pathologist looked up, grabbed me by the shoulders, stared me straight in the eye and said, "You hear that? You never open the door when they're knocking. Never." Turned out to be some loose pipes. He thought it was hilarious. I didn't sleep that night. Why'd you have to ruin it like that? I was so scared. I was so scared for a second. And then you ruined it. You ruined the magic. This spooky but sweet goodbye. I'm an RN. And while I was a student, I was caring for a lady who had end-stage renal failure, had a DNR, and was shutting down. We were having a little chat when she stopped, looked over my shoulder, and said, "Bill's here, love. I've got to go," and swiftly stopped breathing. Read her notes, and Bill was her deceased husband. That's actually, like, heartbreaking, but it's also kind of sweet. Oh wait, literally the title. Sorry. Literally the title of what this was. Number 8, and this surprise hello. I did my clinical as a CNA in a memory care unit. I helped feed this woman. She never really moved, never talked. It was like she was in a coma or something. I would wheel her into the dining room. I can hardly get any real food in her. I'm able to slide in some special ice cream. For days, she doesn't move or have any response. I'm feeding her and talking to myself pretty much. After about 10 minutes, she slowly turns her head and says, "Oh, hello." Then she rotates her head back to her blank staring position. I don't like that. I don't like that. This ghostly patient. I used to work in a personal care home. A couple of times, a day or so after a resident had passed, their call bell would go off in their room. No one was in the room when the call bell went off on any of the occasions. We had one resident die pretty traumatically. The nurses had to perform CPR because he was a full code. That night, the midnight staff said they saw him at the end of the hall just walking down like he always did. Then the alarm on the door to the outside, it was a secured unit for Alzheimer's and dementia, went off. It was the door he always tried when he was looking to get out. That is terrifying. This grim cat. I'm excited for this one. I work in a cardiovascular surgical ICU. We have a lot of fucked up people, both physically and mentally, that come through our unit. We had a stretch of nights where each corner of our unit, it's a perfect square, reported seeing a cat walking around. Not a friendly cat either, apparently. The thing was hissing at them. The accounts were so similar to each other, we actually spent probably a half hour looking around for a cat, and we had security and plant ops come look as well. No cat was ever seen or found. 2 of those 4 patients coded the next day. Number 11, this plot twist. Never anything paranormal, but I had an older patient who kept every piece of paper from every hospital stay. His heart was in bad shape, so I was desperately looking for anything to help our cardiologist out. I finally found his records from when he had a heart surgery. It was in Paris, California in about 1980. I was just reading a book about nurses who became serial killers when sure enough I see records with the name Robert Diaz. I was the nurse for a man whose former nurse was a serial killer. That's nuts! What the fuck? These haunted hospitals. My town has 2 really old hospitals. One no longer functions as overnight, and the stories are unsettling. No one cleans the old ER alone because all the lights and call bells go off. On other floors, there's a kid with his ball, a lady in a white dress, etc. A coworker was cleaning an entire floor utterly solo, the norm, and bounced between rooms because the cleaning solution stays wet for a few minutes. Upon returning to a freshly wiped bed, handprints were clearly visible. Oh my god, I would quit. Also, sorry, it's so dark. It's pouring outside. It is so gloomy. Also, well, I don't think it's raining anymore, like at this moment. It's just super cloudy, but it was pouring earlier, so it's super dark outside. I could turn a light on. Also, I didn't make my couch look good, whatever. But I could turn a light on, but I'm not going to, because ambiance. This ghostly little brat. This might get buried, and it's not really nurse related other than the fact that my grandmother's nurses told me. My great-grandmother was 94 and just started suffering from dementia. She told the home nurses and me that there was a little boy in the corner of the living room who would taunt and tease my great-grandmother while laughing at her, telling her she was going to die. Well, at first it was a little disturbing, and we all shrugged it off because of her dementia. But then shit got real when my best friend came over with his little boy who was about 3 or 4. The little guy pointed over to the same corner and yelled, "I'm gonna beat you up." When we asked him what that was about, he told us that he saw another little boy in the corner and he's not nice. We flipped the fuck out. I got shivers just typing this. Maybe Nana wasn't hallucinating. She wasn't. That is 100% paranormal. If the little boy saw it, it's real. This haunted bed. Weems is getting into a bag. You're gonna hear some crinkling. I don't know how to stop him. Nurse here. I worked the night shift when a ward patient's relative came running to the nurse's station in a panic. "Nurse, come quick," she cried. "What happened? You have to see it for yourself." I ran to the ward where this little old lady patient was crying and holding onto the bed for dear life. Her bed was shaking. Now, you're probably thinking the lady was the one causing all that shaking, but she was this frail little thing. She couldn't have barely rattled the bed rails. The ward only had 2 other patients in it and their respective watchers. Everyone was huddled in a corner, shaking in fright. Apparently that particular ward was seldom used, and that bed the old lady lay in was rarely occupied. People who have laid in it complained of nightmares where they hear screams and laughter of angry children. I guess some restless spirit called dibs on that particular bed. Okay, there's 2 more. This Reaper in purple. I worked for a short time as an EMT who spent most of my time with transfers. I had a regular who was an older woman that I took to a dialysis center across town frequently. One day she was being moved and I was in the back with her. She looked under the weather, so I asked what was wrong, and she said a man in purple had been visiting her. I asked if he was a relative or a technician, and she shook her head. She said the man would sit next to her during dialysis and stroke her hair. Thinking this was strange, I asked the center techs about such a person. No one had seen or remembered such a person. Visitors weren't really a thing at this center anyway, so I assumed the patient was imagining it. No, it's paranormal. No, it is paranormal. It's always paranormal. Just kidding, it's probably not. But we're gonna pretend. Oh, that wasn't even the end. Well, one day we're actually heading to pick her up, and on the way into the parking lot, I see through the window something that chills my heart to think about. It sent shivers up my spine at the time too. Like, I immediately recognized it, but I swear to God, I saw a man in purple scrubs standing in one of the big windows watching us drive in. And when we pulled out of sight to go to the pickup door, we walked in to see a bunch of techs rushing to my transfer patient. The woman had just suffered a heart attack, and they were unable to revive her, even at the hospital she was rushed to. None of the techs in that place wore purple scrubs. Bye. See ya. And lastly, number 16, and finally, this patient who was scared to life. I'm assuming scared to live, but it says scared to life. Patient comes in coding, and we are working on him, and we're getting nothing. So we bring in his wife to say goodbye, and she starts yelling at him at the top of her lungs. And he comes back. So we arrange a transfer to a tertiary hospital, and he codes again, so she comes back and yells at him again, and he comes back again. Cut to, they're loading him into the helicopter, and he codes again. So they bring him back into the ER, and after working on him for a bit on the helipad, his wife yells at him again, and once again, he immediately comes back. Eventually, they decide to have his wife ride in the helicopter with him to make sure she can scare him back to life if he were to code again. This guy ended up living and received a heart transplant and is still alive to this day, all thanks to his wife scaring the life back into him. That is crazy. That is fucking insane. That'd be me though. I'd be like, you can't. Like, you're not allowed to die. You can't fucking die. No, absolutely not. Get up. Get up. That is all I have for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. I want to go watch House so bad. Like, that's all I've been doing with my time is watching House. And I am so bad at watching TV shows. Like, and I've talked about this in a video recently. I was saying how, like, I have a hard time watching new TV shows because once I like rewatching the same ones. I already know what happens. And even like with House, there's so many seasons, so many episodes that you just like, you kind of forget over time. So I've seen it like 10 times and I'm still surprised sometimes. But I haven't watched or like sat down and watched a TV show in a very long time, and now I'm trapped in my own apartment watching House. But I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. We meet again. And unfortunately, I don't think I have anything to tell you. I'm just gonna be honest. We could do a little GoPuff haul. I got GoPuff right before I started filming. I got high chews, because I'm addicted to these bitches, and I have been eating them non-stop. They're like my little midnight snack with, do you guys do this? I have a horrible midnight snack problem. I have pretzels by my bed at all times because I will wake up multiple times throughout the night and just snack on pretzels. Like, I just wake up and I eat pretzels, and then high chews, or stopped recording, but then I also will eat high chews. I will also eat high chews after I eat my pretzels. And then I got a big old Smart Water because I need to drink more water, and I love Smart Water. I think it tastes delicious. And I got one the other day because like I have a Brita, but it's like not the same. And so I got this bad boy. I'm gonna drink this today. I just love Smart Water. And then I got a vape. I'm like trying to be healthy, and then I'm like, but I also got a whatever. That's my GoPuff haul. That's all I got. Yeah, I mainly just ordered the other stuff because I needed a vape. But, you know, we're not going to talk about that. Also, please, for the love of God, ignore my hair. So I put my hair in braids yesterday and slept on them, and this is the result. I didn't feel like redoing them because it takes a lot of effort to braid your hair. I went to Topgolf yesterday, and I won. I won both games. We played 2 games. I won both of them. I was so proud. Well, the first game, me and my sister tied for first place, which is fine. I still won. But the second game, I almost scored 100. I scored 99. Like, I am a golf pro. What the fuck? But yeah, I apparently am really good at golfing. Well, goodness, no, I'm not. I just aim for the same thing every fucking time. And we were doing, okay, so we played 1 game, and then we only had like a little bit of time left. So we were like, let's speed run through the next round. And so I was like hitting balls as fast as I fucking could. And then I just kept scoring like a million points. Like I got like 8 points, 12 points, 10 points over and over again. And I was like, what is going on? I was very proud. But I don't understand how it happened because I was just speed running through the ball hits. I don't know. But yeah, apparently I'm really good at Topgolf. That's my new thing. My new thing is Topgolf. I'm gonna go because I want to watch House. I love you so much. See ya.